And it's just so crazy that life had in store for me that within a year I would be the new bad guy in Karate Kid 3. And that's one of the reasons why, I've known Billy since 1988, and we finally got to work together on Cobra Kai all those years later. And that was one of the things that made it really special, was having the chance to work with him.
You had a moment too that you're very open about, which is again very inspiring for people as far as getting through things in life, where you were on set and you almost died on set, and it was a very
Yeah.
close call for you and like a
Yeah.
wake up call in your life. Some people might not even know that that had happened to you. Tell us about that and how it changed you.
So, Christmas Day 1988, um, I passed out in Las Vegas and was taken to Humana Sunrise Hospital. And what had happened was we I was filming Karate Kid 3, doing a lot of martial arts, training extensively. And I started having this significant pain in my upper left thigh, which I thought was from all the karate. And so I started taking aspirin. Well, I had perforated my omentum, and I didn't even know what an omentum was. It sits on top of your greater intestine. I was bleeding internally. The aspirin's a blood thinner. It exacerbated the bleeding. My blood pressure dropped, and I passed out. And so I'm at the hospital, and they said, we're gonna have to operate on you. And I thought that meant like Monday. They're like, no, that means in 10 minutes. And here's a piece of paper that says you acknowledge that we might not be able to save your life. And things got very real very quickly. So they you know took me into surgery, and I made it through the surgery. I woke up at a 15-inch wound on my abdomen, closed with surgical steel staples. And my dad was in the hospital room. They could only get one ticket because my parents were on the East Coast. But he flew out at like midnight. My mom was coming as soon as she could. And my first thought was, well, what about the role? And I didn't have to wait long. I got a call from John Avildsen, who directed The Karate Kid. The Karate Kid 2 won the Oscar for Rocky in '76. And he said, look, you got to be back to work in 2 weeks, or we're going to hire Brandon Lee. And there were no balloons, there were no flowers. It was like, welcome to Hollywood, kid. And um, it pissed me off. I was just angry at what I perceived to be the universe's lack of justice. And here's the thing: the universe isn't fair. It isn't unfair. It just is. And so I got out of bed and I was able to walk to the bathroom in my hospital room the first day, and then collapsed back in bed. And the next day, I was able to walk around the floor by the nurses' station. And the day after that, I was able to walk around a couple times. And I think by the fourth day, I had them discharge me against medical advice. And long story short, long story longer, I wound up doing all my own stunts in that film, with the exception of one, which was a driving stunt where the car that I was in goes across these train tracks, and there's a speeding train that just narrowly misses it. There's no way of doing that. Um, but it was, to date, still ranks as the most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me. Where you have to put your life in a stranger's hands, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I don't know that I would choose not to have had it happen, because it it taught me so many different lessons about the world, and it also taught me a few things about myself that I didn't know at that very young age of 22 years old. Um, and That's why when people say, what's the most special project, film, TV that you've ever worked on, Karate Kid 3 is up there, not because of the film itself, but because that happened, and subsequently what I learned from it.
That really is amazing. I'd heard that story and I was moved by it because, again, we all go through different things in our life, sometimes
Yeah,
similar to that, where it's a life and death situation. And it's how we respond to it, how we get through it, and what we've learned from it, and what we pay forward to others to lift
absolutely.
others up that makes a difference. What's amazing about you, Sean, too, is you have cult followings from several different areas of the entertainment world. The
Yeah.
Karate Kid franchise followers, Cobra Kai, of course, which is always revered and widely talked about. And there's clubs and groups and websites and just so much about Cobra
Right.
Kai.
Right.
And of course, the daytime drama fans. Cobra Kai coming into your life was really something extra special, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's not very often that 35, 38 years later, you get to reprise a role, um, and do it on an internationally, uh, famous number one show on Netflix. It took me till the fifth season to get on the show, but it really worked out well because when the show started, it was on YouTube Red, and it was a much smaller show with a much smaller following. By the time I got on, it had just caught fire, and it was really great to get to work with Ralph again and to reprise this role, not as this young 22-year-old green kid who had just started acting class, but as a guy that's done 1,500 episodes of network television, 25 feature films. I mean, my toolbox was a lot more extensive. And so I was able to bring a lot more, different colors, different nuances to the role than what it originally was.
What were you left with?